in business for yourself is great for a ton of reasons. You're your own boss, and how much you make depends directly on you and your efforts. Also, from a taxation standpoint, it's awesome because you decide how much of a salary your own business pays you. And if that salary is zero, well, then there's no personal income taxes to pay, right? It's great. But what about getting a mortgage then? How will you ever qualify? What's the bank supposed to do if your income is zero? Well, it turns out there's a program for just that situation. Let's explore the self-employed program with Statements. Hi, my name is David Ponce and I'm your friendly neighborhood mortgage broker from Montreal, Quebec. On these videos, we explore mortgages and all their quirks and features, and we also learn a little bit about finance and credit. If you never want to miss any of these fascinating videos, make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, hit that bell icon so you get notified when I post. Now, I can't tell you the number of times I've had clients come to me to get a mortgage and they say, hey, I'm self-employed. I declare very little. I'd like a mortgage. And I mean, why not? You have to understand, your business is its own entity. It gets taxed independently of you. It declares its own income. And you decide whether the business pays you, the individual, any salary at all. If you're already managing to subsist either on your savings or your partner's income, or you're very, very frugal, you don't actually need to pay yourself a dime. Leave all the profits in the business, give it room to grow. It's perfectly kosher. Now, this works mainly with corporations. It can work to some degree if you're just registered, but it involves doing less kosher things like declaring personal expenses as business expenses. I'm not saying it's right, but it is common. I will leave it up to you and your accountant to do the right thing. I'm just saying it happens a lot. Either way, the result is that it'll look to a bank like you make no money at all, when in fact you do. It's just that you leave that money in the business or you've done some accounting gymnastics. But in theory, you could pay yourself and you could afford a mortgage. Well, there are some banks who understand this. And they're in the business of making money, so they found a way to lend you nonetheless. Yep, there is a program for that. They have various names, but they're usually versions of a very sexy name like the self-employed program with bank statements. The way it works is as follows. Instead of looking at your tax reports to determine your personal income, the bank is actually going to look at 12 months of bank statements from your business to see how much it's bringing in the last year, and to try to figure out if there's room for you to pay yourself an acceptable salary in theory. In order to do that, they'll ask you to fill out a document called a self-declaration of income and expenses. It stays confidential between the bank and you, and by definition, you're going to be able to put expenses that are different from what you declared to the taxman on that paper. The difference between your gross revenue and your verbally declared expenses will be the amount that the bank can use to determine capacity, to see if you can afford the payments on that loan you're asking for. Of course, it's got to make sense, right? You can't just put $0 in expenses and expect this to work. Depending on the nature of the work that you do, the expenses need to be coherent. If you're an IT consultant working from home, you will have much less expenses than someone who owns a restaurant, right? Also, you do need to bill your clients for every deposit we can see on your statements. Once the bank has reviewed the papers, they're going to select 3 or 4 random deposits and ask you for the bills. If you can't show them, that income isn't accepted. Now, some banks require that you be in business for 2 years. Others, like Equitable, don't. Some need to see your tax reports even with the program, some don't. I mean, it's tedious work, I'm not gonna lie. Depending on the nature of the business, adding up 12 months of deposits and sifting through hundreds of transactions to make sure you only add business income as opposed to anything else, well, it's very time consuming. But it does work, and it does get people financed when traditional banks would say no. Note one thing, this only works with conventional loans, meaning you won't be able to buy a home with less than 20% down and use this program. Yeah, for those of you at home paying attention, there is Sagent's Solution A program that kind of sort of looks like this, but let me tell you, it's not the same thing at all. In that program, it really doesn't work as well as you might think. Also, don't expect to see this program at a traditional bank. As far as I know, it's just an alternative bank sort of deal, which means that, yep, you do have to go through a broker, like me. So that's it. If you declare very little taxes as a self-employed individual, you can still get a mortgage if you work with the right broker. For more videos like this, stay tuned.